It seems like in our lives we often have events that are very extreme and very polar from one another. We find one such occurrence in the final meal that Jesus ate with his disciples. We begin reading about that in John chapter 13. In fact, verse 2 gives us the first half of this very polar events that are going on here when it talks a little bit about Judas. The Bible says in John 13 verse 2, during supper, when the devil had already put it into the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, to betray him, that's the first part, that the devil put it into the heart. Judas allowed the devil to tempt him, to tantalize him. Judas began to contemplate the thoughts of the temptation of betraying Jesus and the money, obviously, that was involved in that he had made the deal with the Pharisees and the priest. And now it was in his heart. And he allowed the devil to put that thought, to put that action that led to this sinful behavior into his heart. These are extremely sad words. One of Jesus' own disciples at this meal that would really be Jesus' final meal with them has nothing in his mind or his heart but betraying the very man who will now demonstrate for us the other half, the other polar end of the events that we're talking about that happened here. The Bible tells us that after these things were put into Judas' heart and he knew this is what he was going to do, verse 3 says, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands and that he had come from God, that he was going back to God, the Bible tells us when you skip down to verse 4, rose from supper, he laid aside his outer garments and taking a towel, tied it around his waist, and he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet. The other polar end of the spectrum that we have here is Jesus washing the disciples' feet. And the reason I say it's the polar opposite is because Judas is the one who's betraying. Jesus washed Judas' feet. The very man that he knew was going to betray him. One of the final things that Jesus did for him was wash his feet. There are people out there who betray us. There are people out there who mistreat us. There are people out there who do very bad things to us and to our family. What do we do to them? What do we do for them? Would we be willing, like Jesus, to wash their feet? Let's, to the best of our ability, try to be like Jesus.